This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I hope everyone is able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So in continuation to last session's discussion, so we had just started about this. What are the simplifications that has come in, as an overview of what are the simplifications have come in. So we discussed about what is a digital core, right? We have discussed about what is a digital core, how does digital core is integrating my partners, customers, everyone, and finally how it enables my entire organization to excel with all my stakeholders getting integrated, plus all this machines. If you talk about it as a process, and your people, process, and your machines getting integrated, or a device is getting integrated, right? That's when it has led to all this IoT getting integrated. So people, because of IoT getting integrated, and the data is getting popped up from various sources, right? Once the data gets popped up from various sources, which will eventually help us in my own business. So in that perspective, so when you talk about the entire business is all revolving around this. So if you see here, we have discussed about the digital core. Then we touched base a bit on my Fiori. I just shown you one or two Fiori apps. So basically, to make you comfortable as to what Fiori is, because many people have a misconception that Fiori is something very complex. So since it is a new term, so people have this apprehension towards this Fiori. Fiori is basically, it's a tile-based approach, right? So like how you are using a transaction of a VA01 or a VF01, because of late SAP wanted to enhance the user experience. So they said this is the way by which they can enhance the user experience part. Because when you talk about the user experience, because any user for almost 20-22 years he has been accustomed to using this transaction mode of approach, right? So if you talk about any user, they got into a monotonous way of working. So SAP wanted to redefine the way the user experience was there as part of the SAP strategy. So that is when they brought in something called as this Fiori concept, right? Yes, Fiori, basically they try to integrate everything. Even your analytics was integrated. So basically they try to balance it out between your transactional as well as analytics, so that real-time reporting also could be fetched using the respective Fiori apps. Okay. Then we saw majorly, this is the major difference when it comes to the simplifications. When I discussed about simplifications, we discussed about what simplifications means. Basically, one is the table size. So what is the number of table downsizing that has happened, T-code downsizing that has happened, and the business process redefinition. In terms of how the existing business process were all redefined. Yeah. Bharat, you have anything to say?
Yeah. So it is that session will start at about which topic?
Uh, no, basically, continuation to last session that we had discussed. Basically, we're trying to see an overview of what simplifications, what are things before we get into individual topics.
Okay.
Yeah. So people, we're trying to ensure get a glimpse of how simplification happen, so that it helps us in moving further. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So when you talk about the tables, as I said, this is the most critical thing when it comes to the tables, because they are redefining the entire from ERP to from your ECC to S4HANA with something called as a simplified data model. So we saw about the different changes that has happened in terms of the number of tables that has been downsized and the number of tables that is existing. If you see on the top, you have your business suite. Here, if you see, this is all your business suite. So basically, this is all the tables that are existing in HANA. So all the status tables, all these LIS tables which were there, so all the index tables, because previously many sales people would have used these two tables, right? VBUK and VBUP. These two tables have now been status tables, because these two tables have now been eliminated in the system, and you have export import tables, plus people are used this rebate index table, VBOX table, right, where all the rebate entries used to get accumulated. That has also been eliminated. So when I mean elimination, it is basically the tables have been converted as views, right? When I say elimination, it is all about the tables that have been converted as views in the system. So even if you go to SC16N, you will still find those tables. When you go to SC16 or 16, you will find those tables. But if you see those tables would have been converted as views, right? You'll see that in 16N, but it'll all be as views in the system.
Sorry, Ram, what is table is converted as what?
Views.
Views, okay.
View. They don't reside as physical tables. So any transaction which the table captures, right? So it will all be captured in the core tables now. So for example, core tables being your sales, procurement, and your sales. When you talk about the sales side specifically, you have your sales order tables, which is basically your sales header tables, where you have your VBAK, VBAP, and your VBEP, plus your delivery tables, LIKP and LIPS being your delivery header and item level tables, and your billing, VBRK and VBRP, which is basically your header and item level tables. Yes. Then we have one more table, a VBFA, which is the document flow table, right? So these tables are existing as physical tables in the system. Rest all tables have been moved as views. Okay. Then coming to the part, we had discussed about, so what are the existing tables? So we had a lot of history tables, a lot of evaluation tables. All these tables have been downsized to only one particular table called MATDoc. You don't have your existing tables, MARC, MARD, all these things have been eliminated to only one single table called MATDoc. Yes, that is then when it comes to the material evaluation or a material ledger, because material ledgers, as I told you, it is closely integrated to my inventory management, and that has become a mandatory concept as far as SAP S4HANA is concerned. So that's when without the material ledger, your GR things would not happen in SAP S4HANA system going forward. So your material ledger has been captured as part of a material ledger table. There is a table called MLDoc that captures all your material ledger information, which is integrated to my ACDOCA table. When you talk about the accounting, again, if you see material ledger is integrated to my accounting. If you see this picture, material ledger has been integrated to my accounting. Accounting, again, when I talk about FI side, so many tables have been downsized to couple of tables. BKPF retained it, and ACDOCA. Rest all tables have been eliminated. Be it your open items for the vendor, closed item for the vendor, open items for the customer, closed item for the customer, plus all your costing tables have been eliminated. So all these tables, again, as I said, it has all been retained as views, and that will be accessing your ACDOCA table. That is where the simplification in terms of the table-wise details have all been created. So, and when I talk about the T codes, so as I said, because all these T codes which any functional consultant would have been used to, MB01, MB1A, MB1B, which is for transfer posting, MB1C, so other issues, MB1A for all your goods receipt, all these things have been eliminated. If your MBST is basically cancelling of a material document, so all these things have been cancelled, or all these things have been eliminated as T codes in the system. All these T codes have been replaced with one single T code called MIGO, which is able to handle all these transactions with one single transaction. Okay, so this is not new. In sense, MIGO was parallelly having it right from your EHP 7 and 8. But only thing is that now they said when they wanted to redefine the data structures with the simplification concept, that's when SAP said, now let me eliminate it, because if I parallelly allow people start using it again, see, whenever you have parallel transaction getting executed, right, so many transactions there, it basically affects the throughput of the system. So when you want to have such a system where everything is monitored on performance, that's the reason they said, now I'll eliminate it so that with one single transaction, let it get carried forward with the existing setup. Okay, then coming to the Fiori. So as I told you, a lot of Fiori simplifications happen in terms of how the tiles have been segregated, right? You have your transaction oriented tiles, you have your analytical oriented tiles, you have some analyticals purely on analytics. So on real time, you get all the information in terms of the graphs, the historical information, plus your bar charts, pie chart, depends on the way you want the graphs to be shown. So basically, these tiles have become a critical component for people who are at the CXO level, right, or very senior level people who take day-to-day decisions based on these reports. So that is where this analytical tiles have been given most prominence, basically to cater to the CXO level people or senior level people, whoever is involved in day-to-day decision making. Then coming to my fact sheets. Fact sheets are basically from one transaction, how you move to the other transaction. Those are called as a fact sheets. Basically, you need not toggle on multiple T codes. It's one single transaction where you can lead. For example, you open a sales order. From there, you can go to chain sales order, or you can go to anything related to the document flow of the sales order. Everything can be tracked on one shot with one single click. So then you have smart business app. What is a smart business app? Suppose a procurement person or an MRP controller, if he finds, okay, there is some shortage of raw material in my production line, which is going to be affecting my production line, at which they could foresee another 4-5 weeks or 6 weeks before, or 1 month before. So what happens is they can see if there is any purchase order released for the particular material to vendor. So if they sense there is the quantity for which the purchase order has been released for the vendor for procurement of the raw material, maybe it is not in line with what the shortage that they could foresee. So what they can intervene there and there. Because they have a visibility of the purchase orders. I'm giving you a simple example, but a lot of things where smart business apps comes in. So you can click on the particular app, change the quantity, and again eventually update the vendor with the updated purchase order quantity. So because this helps the entire supply chain, be it you who's bothered about your production, plus the supplier who in turn has to work with the supplier network, right? Supplier, if he's a manufacturer, he has to internal work with his production team to ensure that all these requirements are met in terms of how he can produce and deliver it to you. Or if in turn he has to depend on some person who is sourcing, from whom he is sourcing the raw materials from, he has to in turn work with the supply chain, backwards with the supply chain, and ensure that he's able to meet the delivery timelines that we set for the delivery of the goods that we are requesting for. Okay, so when I talk about the core functions of my SAP S4HANA, it works on the real-time inventory management, where you can see real-time information, and which will give you real-time information. This is the advantage that we have from ECC, because ECC was basically where we had to toggle between multiple transactions to arrive at, so what is the inventory situation, because this is graphical display where you have all the real-time inventory that is all coming out. Plus you have your order management. Again, on the sales side, you can have a real-time tracking as to where my orders are stuck up. So because some orders would have been incomplete orders, some orders should have delivery blocks, billing blocks, everything, it is all in real time. It is getting tracked in terms of the apps here. Basically everything is on the app based here, so it makes everyone's life easier, be it your sales people who are from sales, who logs in sales orders, be it your warehouse people who does the execution of the product deliveries, as well as people who work in billing, basically people who are working invoices, people who are working on accounts based on whoever is tracking your payments from the vendors. Everything is on real-time tracking that is happening. Plus you have your even your material requirements planning, right? So how frequently we are involved in a material requirements planning. So because now sometimes what happens is they run once in a day, or once in 2 days. Sometimes I've seen they run once in a week in some organizations, some projects. So basically why they were running it, because the material requirement planning was taking much longer time. So that's the reason they were running it in an ad hoc. Sometimes they used to run in an ad hoc basis as well, so whenever required. So here what is happening is, in material requirements planning now, they have redefined the way the backend process are all integrated. So they have accelerated. That's why they have come out with something called as an accelerated MRP, and they come out with something called as MRP Live. So this accelerated MRP is now called as an MRP Live. So MRP Live, so it takes so again the concept of your parallel processing, right? You have a parallel processing concept as part of the HANA. They utilize the parallel processing concept of HANA, where all your procurement proposals, be it your purchase orders, PRs, be it your sales proposal, because sales is all your independent demand, right? It's an independent demand that comes in, plus a dependent demand in terms of your planned orders, purchase production orders. All these are all dependent demands on which it takes both your dependent and independent. It gets parallelly processed in the system, so that we get in no time, in a much faster time, you get the MRP requirements that gets populated. So based on which you can decide whether it's a planned order, or if it's an in-house manufacturing or an external procurement, how do you want to source the raw materials, how the raw materials gets assigned to the particular production orders, right? So then find how the production execution, and finally how the GR of the finished goods comes in. And once the GR of the finished goods comes in, how it has to be dispatched to the customer, based on if it is an MTS scenario, make to stock scenario, or a make to order scenario. Depends on what sort of business process that any particular customer is entitled to hold with him. Then when they talk about efficient procurement, they see what is the procurement on real time. So what are the different real-time strategies that are applied to see, because a lot of apps are coming again on the procurement side, real-time analytics. There are a lot of apps that comes in which gives you an exact picture of how the procurement is happening. So what is the procurement state now? So what time we can expect, because eventually everything scales down to, so when my materials will be hitting my warehouse, right, or my stocks. So that is where they work on efficient procurement. And there's a lot of software development, embedded softwares that have been integrated. So for example, your Lumira, all these things, people who have worked on Lumira, because it gives you a graphical representation, because it's all SAP's proprietary tools, right, which all been integrated into the product development itself, in the product development side. And they have come out with something called as an advanced available to promise. So advanced available to promise is basically, it's a when you talk, you heard of something called as an ATP, right? Any salesperson would have come across an ATP check, where every time you enter a material and a quantity and it undergoes an ATP check, taking into consideration all your requirements, be taking, if there is an RLT has to be, replenishment lead time has to be taken into consideration. Then finally, then you say this is the day on which my schedule lines get confirmed, right? Again, it undergoes here. There is a lot of process where you have a backer, you have a back order process. If it's not getting confirmed, it gets into back order processing. You can backward scheduling, forward scheduling, and finally they arrive at what is my material availability date, and based on which it calculates all my loading time, picking time, and your transit time, everything. And finally, it says what is the delivery time that takes for me to reach, for my material to reach the customer. Okay, so with this advanced availability promise, they are trying to bring in the concept of GATP, right? So, but GATP, the disadvantage or the limitation was it was restricted to only one particular plant, right? So with this advanced availability promise coming in, because this is a replacement of your GATP concept, global availability promise, which has been brought in from your APO concept. See, what would happen is, so because it will have a multi-plant check, because if this plant is not available, there are possibilities that it could go and check the other plant. Again, there could be allocations that could be set for a customer. So when I talk about allocations, suppose if I have 100 quantity with me, so not necessary a customer place an order for 100 quantity, not necessarily 100 quantities will be given to one particular customer. Second, if the other customer places an order for 100 quantity, that customer will not be getting, because I already exhausted the stock with the first set of customer who has released the sale, who has really requested for the 100 quantity. So what I would do is, that is something called as an allocation, because every customer is equally important for me. So I will have to carry forward my business with every customer. Tomorrow I satisfy the first customer who gives me the other 100 quantity. The other second customer, he might be equivalently important. Just because I don't satisfy his requirement, he might get onto my competition. He might get onto my competitor and start placing orders to him. That's when I'll be losing business. So that is when they'll try to strike a balance between your existing customers to all these important customers. So that's why they go for something called as an allocation. Allocation is because every week, or I keep my weekly buckets, based on which every week I'm setting 150 quantity for each customer. So first customer gives me an order for 100 quantity. So what will happen is the 50 quantity which have been allocated will get allocated to the first customer. Second customer, again allocate 50 quantity, that will get allocated by 50 to the second customer. So if the second customer later says, okay, again that is all managing, right? That's how the sales normally they speak to the second customer and say, sir, so if they'll try to find how critical is that particular product to them. If the second customer says, no, it is not equivalent, it's not so important, so they can wait for a week. So that is when they run something called as a back order processing, right? Back order processing is, again, that is all, it was a concept that was there in ECC, but with this advanced features, how they can they have redefined the back order processing as part of this AATP. So when you run the back order processing, the 50 orders which have been allocated to the second customer automatically so customer B gets 50 quantity. Tomorrow I run a back order. A requirement is 100, B requirement is 100. So 50 quantity, if at all, because none I run a back order quantity, this 50 gets reconfirmed for this customer. If this customer says, okay, as of now, it is okay for me to wait for a week. So the overall, the 100 quantity, because some customers will say, no, I want full delivery. I do not want any partial delivery. In that case, 100 quantity will get will get confirmed for this customer, and this customer will be. So next set of orders, next set of stock that comes in, this particular customer will be able to satisfy the 50, 100 quantity with this particular. Again, the customers like C and D, again, how do they manage the customers is based on the delivery priorities, a lot of parameters on which the entire AATP is set. That is how your product allocation and your back order processing. And there is something called as a release for delivery that is coming. So when I talk about a release for delivery, so suppose after back order processing, the orders have confirmed. So before a release for delivery, one very high priority order comes in, lands in. That is much higher than whatever has been confirmed. That's much more prioritized than whatever has been confirmed. Again, they'll have to go with managing it, speaking to customers and trying to fulfill that particular order. Again, there will be, you can manually override the existing confirmation that has happened. That is called as a release for delivery. Again, it's an app based, because you don't have much configuration. It's an app based approach. In the app, you see what for which are the, for this customer, for this particular metal, which are the orders are there, based on which you can deconfirm few and you can confirm whichever is required, and you can directly release it for your delivery. That is called as a release for delivery. Then coming to your embedded extended warehouse management. When I talk about embedded extended warehouse management, so previously it was called as an EWM. EWM was basically put as a separate box, and ECC used to speak to a EWM box through your RFCs and CIFs, right? Through your RFCs and CIFs. So when it comes to an embedded EWM, they have integrated this EWM into one single box now. They've integrated the EWM into one single box. When I put everything into one single box, so what happens is they wanted to reduce on the redundancies and the CIFs issues, because a lot of QRFC issues were coming in, a lot of CIF related issues were coming in, because one box has to talk to other box. The communication that was happening from one box to other box was leading to a lot of issues. So going forward, if you see, you'll see all these modules getting integrated to one box. So that is the reason when they're talking about simplification, they've done so much of simplification just because they wanted to accommodate many things into one particular box, right? So when everything gets simplified, the performance of the system would still be high to accommodate all these modules into one single box. No, going forward, there will not be any multiple boxes communicating to each other and exchanging the information. It will be one single box where if you want a report to be done on EWM, directly that data will be taken and it will be generated, or reports will be generated on an instant basis. That's where real-time reporting is all focused towards. Okay, that's where your embedded EWM is all coming in. And one more thing, people will have to be noticed, we will have to keep informed that WM is no more there. In SAP S4HANA, there's no more WM. All MM consultants who have worked, because MM consultants have worked on WM as well. So the only option beyond the storage location is your, yes, you have a warehouse number, but the warehouse number will be linked to your embedded warehouse. Again, the structure would still remain the same, where you have a warehouse number, you have a storage section, you have a picking area, you have a quant and bin level. But still, that beyond the storage location, if anyone wants to look at it, it's only an EWM that is getting integrated. Okay. Then you have your optimized portfolio and project management. When I talk about my optimized portfolio and project management, they call something called as a, because you have your PS systems, right? We have a PS has been integrated into SAP S4HANA. So when I talk about a PS project systems, these project systems were basically individual projects they were handling it. So when you want to handle a portfolio of projects, multiple projects under a portfolio, that is where your portfolio and project management is a module. So that's handling multiple projects where there are multiple activities, networks, everything is getting handled. That's when it is again a part of your SAP S4HANA. It is all coming into the same box. So that is where your portfolio and project management. So people who are working on PS would normally try to upskill themselves to work on your PPM. That is your portfolio and project management system. Then you have a quality management, because your quality management concepts have been enhanced. Everything has become on a cloud, on a tile-based approach. A lot of things that on the quality, because based on how you create an inspection lot, how you execute the inspection lot, then how you record the inspection results to see based on which you can take a user decision whether it can be used or not used. That's when all these things are based on your integrated quality management. Then coming to your PPDS. When I talk about a PPDS, as I told you, the new process that has come in is your plan to produce. What is my plan to produce? Suppose that is, again, it's all come from your APO module. Your planning to production is happening in one single system. There's no more multiple systems. Your planning to production is happening in one single system. When it comes to your planning, there's something called as, if people have worked on APO, they would have known something called as product data structures. Product data structures, that is all fetched from your APO model, because it again scales down from your demand plan, which is taken as an input into your supply network plan, and finally that comes into my the production planning detail scheduling. Those PDS data will be extracted from my APO system, and that PDS data, it will be, heuristics will be applied. There will be a lot of heuristics that will be working. The heuristics are basically the calculations, the complex calculation that works in executing, in checking how that entire planning is work, based on which your planned orders get created. Planned orders, once it is created, it could be either a production, or it could be hitting your purchase requirements. PRs would be created. So that's when, because you have multiple work centers on which your entire capacity loads are there. So this helps you in load balancing your capacity. Capacity utilization will be optimally utilized when it comes to your production planning to production happening in one single system. Then you have a Fiori. When I talk about a Fiori, completely about your Fiori, because the user experience part as part of the SAP S4HANA. Okay. And the last three which I have been put up is basically, these are all your core solutions, industry core solutions. So one is my DIMP. When I talk about my DIMP, this is called as a discrete industries and mill products, because SAP S4HANA solutions are concentrated, again, basically the list of industries. Yes, they have around 25 industries now. The core solutions on which the entire focus is laid now is on your DIMP, which is again my heavy engineering industry, automobile industry, aerospace industries. All this is called as a discrete industries. When you talk about the mill products, because ECC solutions were not focused towards a mill products. A lot of mill industries were there. So now where a lot of processing used to happen, that's when there are specific solutions that has come on the industry line of business, and they have something called as a DIMP. So then, and you have oil and gas. Again, the oil and gas, like you had a IS oil, right? IS oil and IS energy, all these things are basically focused on your oil and gas. Then your retail. Again, an IS retail on which the entire information, because again, retail is also integrated, IS auto is integrated, everything is getting integrated to one particular box now. So you don't have multiple boxes, it will all be integrated to one particular box that will be taking it forward. So when you talk about the scope of how these industries, the industry solutions are working, predominantly when you talk about discrete industries and mill products, where it is very strong in the North American market and the European market. So they focus majorly on, if you see a lot of projects which comes along in this industry solutions, would be predominantly from the North American market. Then when I talk about the oil and gas, as everyone knows, the EMEA market is very strong, where you have a Middle East strong footprint on the oil and gas sector. So a lot of projects which are getting executed in the S4HANA side are predominantly in the oils, even in the European region, but predominantly the EMEA region, where the European and the Middle East region, where they have a very strong hold. Then retail is basically your European market, UK market, and your North American market very strong in the retail setup. A lot of companies like Walmart, Target have already started looking at the solutions of SAP S4HANA, trying to integrate with their existing ecosystem, this S4HANA. That is where these focuses will be on your SAP S4HANA. Okay. Then one more change which has come in is basically, previously how many characters that any particular material number would actually have is 18 characters, right? Now from 18 characters, it has been enhanced to 40 characters now, because all your BAPIs have been aligned, all your table level changes which has been accommodated from 18 characters to 40 characters. Be it all BAPIs, which wherever there is a material that is getting carried forward in the particular BAPI, has been realigned from 18 to 40 characters. This is basically because SAP, when they meet the customers in the past, because customers were expressing these pain points, so as such they had to customize that to bring it to the required character length. So basically the pharmaceutical and all the chemical industries, they had huge material lengths, so basically they had to customize it. So SAP took a feedback from them, and they passed on the feedback to the product team, who actually worked in the development of the futuristic products, where they try to integrate this 18 to 40 characters into one single in the particular system, so that the 40 characters are all aligned to the entire system. Okay. So when you talk about a Fiori, so you have something called as a workflow approvals, right? So workflow approvals. So imagine a screen like this. I'm just putting a screen. This is basically a screen where I trigger a purchase order. It undergoes a workflow process, right? It undergoes a workflow where it goes to my supervisor, who has the discretionary which is with him to approve or reject the PO. Imagine a screen like this. If he opens his laptop, if he opens his mobile, if he clicks on the Fiori app, because mobiles are also aligned to be it your iOS or your Android, you have the Fiori apps for respective operating systems. So he opens a clicks on, because there is something called as a my inbox style. So whatever request that gets populated to him, waiting for his action, that resides in his my inbox. The moment he clicks on my inbox, he's able to see this particular purchase request. A lot of purchase things, whichever actions which are pending, it will be as part of his inbox. So the moment he clicks on that, if he sees, okay, I'm going to approve or reject it based on his discretionary. So that is where he can take a call on real time. He can go and approve and reject it. This is one of the simple way by which, because a lot of people we had to wait for approvals, right? Previously, they're expecting the approvals to come from senior level people, whoever is entitled to approve. So they had to log into the system. Again, it is long. There's long waiting times for the approvals. Now with these apps that are there, so it makes life easier. Okay, so when I talk about this S4HANA digital core, so these are the 10 lines of business on which your entire digital core is focused. You have your sales, supply chain, manufacturing, procurement, research and development, your asset management, and you have your services, marketing and commerce, because services, marketing and commerce and sales, basically they are focused towards the hybrid content, because digital core being it your on-premise and the cloud, because they're both it focuses on all your on-premise and cloud. Then you have your finance and HR. These are the 10 line of business on which the entire business scope of SAP S4HANA is concentrated on. Okay, so when I talk about the business paine, so when I talk about the IT layers in terms of how the data automation, so these are the things that our IT layers was having a thing in terms of analytics, in terms of the core process, in terms of the master data, in terms of line of business specific apps, the productivity which people were having. So with this SAP S4HANA concept, it is getting addressed through this innovation cycles that this SAP is adopting. Okay, then coming to, because when you talk about the data automation, again, automation tools like your SAP Leonardo, or where it does mapping, mining, searching, everything is happening through one single tool. And you have your people productivity. So basically there is something called as a co-pilot, which is an integrated like how you are integrated communicator within your SAP. Like you have your link, Skype of business, right? Skype for business, or your link, which is where you use it's a third-party tool, right? Where you'll have to where you'll are communicating with your, it's not an SAP proprietary tool, where you are communicating offline beyond the SAP screen to your. Okay, so that is where we have the copilot as an option, where it helps in communicating internally, where they have a role-based approach, where you click on the particular, there's not a tile, it is an administrator option, where in the for the particular user, where you can communicate. Suppose I want to communicate with my warehouse person, so I can just type in the warehouse questions, send a screenshot of whatever is there. So internal communication will make much easier. So that's when the people productivity is getting increased. Then a business networks, which helps in faster insight to action. Then coming to my lob specific apps. So many apps are there, which is there as part of a SAP cloud platform, being it your Ariba, Field Class, Concur, Hybris, Success Factors, everything works on your cloud platform here, because that's where your lob specific apps increases basically the productivity and as well as the user experience in terms of how it gets executed. Then coming to my analytics, because there are a lot of solution overview pages. There are sales overview, procurement overview, a lot of overview pages, which helps in giving you a sophisticated analytics setup. Then you have something called as a KPIs, your key performance indicators, which helps in visualization and simulation. Then you have a machine learning or predictions, because your analytics is undergoing a lot of machine learning, because your ML and predictive analytics is gaining more prominent now, right? Because your next 15 years is going to be completely on all these technologies. AI, ML, at least 15 to 20 years, there's going to be, these technologies are going to be the future, where SAP is already integrated these technologies. Where if you talk about, they're talking about something called as a digital intelligent enterprise as part of the 1809. They're talking about intelligent enterprise, where they already integrated this concept into the SAP S4HANA. So when you talk about machine learning predictions, although we need to understand the technology behind it. We need to understand the technology behind it. So that is where your machine learning and works in. Then you have a core business process. Again, it is all industry oriented. Basically, your advanced ATP, embedded WM and an embedded TM, which is all there. Then you have an integrated PPDS, and you have your MRP live. It is one MRP, or they call it as an MRP live. All these things are core business process. Then coming to your master data. So you have a lean master data because you don't have multiple master data. It is all integrated to one concept called as a business partner. So where you have a lot of 360-degree cockpits, which is happening for the customer. So where you have all master data integrations happening. Then you have a quick search. Search criteria has become more prominent now. If you know just your sales order, no need to go to the respective. You can open your search bar in your Fiori launchpad, click on that, and it will be there. Then you have a smart tagging, which is there, where you have a lot of smart related activities where you have things. So when it comes to the tables, these are the existing tables. I'm just putting it for your perspective, though we have discussed the tables. So this is the existing tables which are there as part of the ECC. So now after the SAP S4HANA, you see the number of tables that overall it has been reduced now. That's where you have, yeah. And one more thing I want to tell you is pricing tables, right? You have your KONV and KONV, KONP. So all these tables, pricing tables has been eliminated to only one single table called PRCD_elements. Where they have redefined backend work, a lot of backend works in terms of the character length changes. All those things have been changed to PRCD_elements is the only single table which is there as part of the pricing. Okay. This is basically they have touched based on all the industry solutions, automotive side, your EC, your engineering and construction, aerospace, defense, all the mill products, professional services. These are the industry lobs which has all been covered as part of the SAP S4HANA strategy. Yes, this is very critical. So when it comes to the paths, so what is the path that one person has to take when he has to go for SAP S4HANA? So many customers have this, customers have this the issue that already have an ECC system. What is the path I should follow? So the bare minimum one person has to be on ECC, because first is, suppose he's having an ECC system which is sitting on some X database. The path which he has to take is he has to migrate the database first to HANA, and on which your ECC will be sitting. Okay. Next, he has to go for a simple finance. Then he has to go for simple logistics. First, normally this is the path that they follow. If you see here, they will be going for a simple finance, because once your simple finance is integrated, so all your then you implement your logistics, the realization will be happening in your simple finance. That's the reason they go for this path. So normally if you see all these migration projects, right, you would have heard of data migration projects, there are HANA migration projects. People will be in this stage. They are migrating from your database to HANA, but still the system is your ECC system. So when you talk about the old transaction for MB1B, MB1A, MB1C, all these things will be existing, will be running on your ECC system. So you'll find all these transactions in this migration projects. The next, if you go to the simple finance, they'll be using your ECC system. Parallel, it will be working with your simple finance. Then they'll be implementing this logistics. That will all be sitting on your HANA as a database. When everything sits on your HANA as a database, so what will happen is simple logistics, when you enter the transaction that time, right, all these transactions which have been eliminated, for every transaction it will be throwing up an error saying this transaction is obsolete. No more, this transaction is valid. So because sometimes the transaction will throw you a dump as well. It will throw you a dump saying this particular thing has been eliminated in the system. That is where all these new transactions, there will be some new transaction which has all been coming in. So those transactions will be executed in this SAP S4HANA system. This is most critical because minimum any customer who wants to migrate has to be an ERP ECC 6.0. Because a lot of customers you would see they would be still on your SAP 4.6 or 4.7. In that cases, they cannot go for something called as your system conversion. System conversion is where you're converting your SAP ECC bare minimum 6.0 to directly to SAP S4HANA. Okay, so what is the advantage of converting is because you have a lot of custom objects, right? So you would have customized a lot of objects. So if you want to customize, if you want to move that to SAP S4HANA, yes, of course, not everything could be directly moved. There could be specific changes that has to be done on the code line levels before you move it. but there is an option of trying to retain the custom codes, wherein if you go for a new implementation, altogether you cannot be able to move the custom codes. It will all be right from the scratch, how it has been new system, it will be implemented. That is called as a system conversion project versus a new implementation. So any customer, a lot of customers would have been on 4.6, 4.7, right? So what is the roadmap for those customers? Those customers, they have, because SAP has not supported them from a long time. So now this is the right opportunity for those customers to move to SAP S4HANA as a new implementation. Yes, they can migrate their master data and your transaction data through a lot of tools that are there as part of the migration. Once they move all these things, so it will make then it'll all get onto that particular system. So they can use with the master data, they can create the transactions and they can take all the data with them. But the custom data cannot be moved. That is the disadvantage of having old systems, because when you're going for a new implementation, altogether it has to be a new system. It will be altogether a new system. This is how the roadmaps that any implementation would go forward. It will be on this roadmap only. Okay. So we have been seeing the different versions of SAP, right? So we have been seeing right from the time just it came as a HANA, and it came initially with a 1503 module. 1503 module, it just came with a universal journal ledger, where they try to integrate all your asset management. You have your costing, profitability analysis, plus your general ledger. They came out with the general ledger concept. So that's where they came out with this. So next 1511, they added additional functionalities. This is the roadmap which SAP is following from 1511 to I'll tell you the 1809. Predominantly they've retained the same concept 1709, but they've added more intelligent features into that. In terms of the Fiori test, a lot of things have been added. But that's why. But when you talk about the 1511, they came out with the business partner concept. They came out with the material ledger. On top of it, when you talk about 1610, the second layer got added, where you have your EWM, PPDS, and your AATP that has come in. When you talk about 1709, yes, they had more features. So even on the cloud side, right, I told you about an on-premise to cloud and cloud integration. That is all happening through your API interfaces, right? Application programming interfaces. On the cloud side, you see the number of applications, number of SaaS based applications have all increasing time to time. From 1511 to 1610, there are not much changes. But when it comes to 1610 to 1709, on the cloud side, so many things. Leonardo came in. So you have your cache-based applications, your digital payment application. A lot of applications have already started coming in. Plus on the on-premise side, if you see, so these transportation management has been integrated. Then you have services-based models, have a service functionality have been integrated. Then your portfolio and project management, your commercial project management have all been integrated into the 1709 box. So that is where all this HANA is trying to bring in. The roadmap of this would be that lot of modules will be coming in future. So the roadmap is still 2025. If you see by 2020 to 2020 or 21 or 22, you'll find more sophisticatedly all the products coming in, landing in its one single box. That's the roadmap which SAP is following. Yes, these are the tables that I said. I don't just some size might be repeating. So when you talk about this, so how they have structured this entire thing, basically based on the memory side, what are the things that are going to support the memory? So memory-based platform, which helps in my MRP Live, where they have integrated all the MRP concept, plus we are inventory, real-time inventory, and their material valuation, which is all happening in real time. So that is where they are re-architecturing the in-memory platform. When it comes to the user experience, who are basically, there are three basic core modules which gets benefited in terms of whoever is the sales representatives, where he handles the O2C process, your procurement clerk who works on your P2P, procure to pay process, and your material planner and whoever is handling the production side, basically work on the plan to production, right? Planning to production is happening in one section. That is again a P2P process that works. Then it comes to the unifying functionality as part of the digital core. That's where they are coming with the AATP, advanced available to promise, as I said, and your back order processing that comes. Then you have capacity planning comes in, the industry solutions to the digital core comes in. So all these things have been as part of your business innovation cycle. So I'll talk about the simplified data model. Your new improvised functionality in SAP S4HANA is two things. One is your simplified data model plus your user experience that adds your entire SAP S4HANA, because all your new business business and an improved productivity functionality is all brought in through different. One is a simplified data model plus your user experience. Okay. So when I talk about this architecture, I'm just putting up, we'll discuss in detail about the architecture, but to give an overview, how your entire suitable, we talk about the views, right? So all these views are all aggregated here. Those views will be taking the data from your suite table. And then your HANA analytics engines are there. You have a transaction logic, application engine, analytics engine, and your enterprise search engines with again that again communicates through a gateway platform to your Fiori tiles. That's where your Fiori will, because your Fiori has something called as an OData service. To explain an OData service, imagine I have my database layer, application layer, presentation layer. So what is an OData? OData is an open data protocol. Previously, my database used to communicate to my application. Application used to communicate to my presentation layer. So presentation layer, previously it was basically your desktop and my laptop, right? And the communication which was happening to a presentation layer was all purely on my LAN-based connections, right? It's local area network or maximum WAN would be there. So now what is happening is now the number of devices that have got extended is beyond a laptop and desktop. It has got extended to my mobile and my tabs, right? All your mobile devicing equipments have all been integrated. So now the communication that is happening from database to application is happening the way it is communicated, because it's all in the in-memory side, because your application database is closely integrated. Now this has been replaced with something called as an internet. So when internet is replacing a local area network or a WAN, the internet has to carry the information from your application data to your production to your presentation data. So that is where they have something called as an OData service. So OData service translates or converts the data into a format, because everything is on Fiori. As I said, Fiori is basically, it's an URL, right? URL that is again on an internet, right? Though in the backend it fetches through your local network, through your corporate server, but still it is on an internet. The protocol, which is basically, it's an HTTPS protocol, right? When you have an HTTPS protocol, there has to be a format in which it has to be converted, so that my internet, which is replacing my LAN currently, has to communicate to all these devices. That is where this OData service or an open data protocol that helps in communicating and making this communication much simpler or smoother. That is where your entire OData protocol works in. So you have an OData service that connects your gateway, because you have your ABAP, your HANA ABAP and your Fiori, right? You have your ABAP system, and your Fiori takes all the information, and finally it again works with my BIBO tools and getting the information. This is how your entire architecture is all structured. If I get, I'll be discussing in detail as to what are the additional components that helps in, but as of now, in a simpler way, this is how the entire analytics works. Okay, so this was a line of business. As I said, this I've already discussed in terms of how the database sizes have all been shrinking, and by 2025 is what they said, they'll be coming out with something called as a 25 as an event driven model. So the database sizes would still come down to 8.4 GB. Okay, so you have something called as an enterprise management. You heard of some enterprise management, which is again a digital core. Within the digital core, you have all the modules that have been integrated as part of your enterprise management, plus you have different modules, plus you have industry based solutions. Completely it is integrated as your SAP S4HANA enterprise management. So all your modules, for example, your customer service, PS, QM, MM, so your PM, your logistic execution, sales and distribution, everything has been integrated as to one particular setup called SAP S4HANA enterprise management. Okay, then coming to what are the, because these are the areas on which the entire improvements are happening from version to version, right? From 1511 to 16 not to 1610 to 1709 to 1809. These are the lobs on which there a lot of continuous improvement is happening, because they are into the CIP program on all these models, being it your procurement, inventory management, and within the inventory management, what are the things that integrations are happening, plus your material valuation, material requirements planning, advanced availability parameters, capacity planning, order management billing, industry solutions as such, then your financial close, because on the FI side, you have a universal journal ledger and the central finance getting, because there's something called as a central finance concept that has come in, where you have a common central finance system which integrates with all the local systems as such. There is where your entire SAP S4HANA in terms of the procure to pay process wise, because this is all the log wise, this is the process wise, being it a procure to pay, plan to product, order to cash, request to service, and your HR and your finance being the core functional modules of your digital business. Okay, when I talk about the real-time inventory management, these are some of the screenshots that I put up. So I talk about real-time inventory management. So there are specifically inventory turnover, all these things are put up. So you get real-time information as to what is my stock overview, what is my supplier data. So where there are shortage of the particular material. In real time, this sort of information never you would have seen in your ECC systems, right? This gives you an insights as a graphical representation. So it will make a better understanding. It will make everyone's life easier if such sort of graphical information is shared. Again, your material requirement planning. Which are the materials that needs to be planned properly? Which are the materials that are encountering a shortage? So what is the stock quantity? Because in terms of the content itself, you can come to know what is the shortage that I can foresee in the next few months. There and there I can go on, because if you want to increase the change, because there is only for the particular plan, if there is any purchase orders here, I can go on. This is basically an interactive app. So where I can go and increase, I can change it, I can procure it, or I can transfer it from other stock. So based on which you have a lot of component details that has all been integrated. So that's where I can go and I can, because I can material shortage wise, I can go and individually check, accept, change, procure, all these things I can do in real time. It depends on what is the requirement at that moment. Okay, so you have a lot of tiles. As I said, you have MRP cockpit tiles that has come in, which gives you real-time information as to what are the KPIs in terms of the MRP, which gives any alerts in terms of material shortages. This is all basically digital consoles, right? These are all your consoles, which helps in faster digital making. Then you have your stock requirements as part of your material planning. They have a material shortage. Everything is on real time here, which gives a much better user experience in terms of how that entire thing. Because all these things, when you talk about real time information, it all scales down to how it is all. This particular thing with this particular slide is the one that helps in ensuring that all this information is fetched from the database to what in terms of the Fiori tiles that is getting integrated. Okay, so when you talk about a real-time analytics architecture, again, as I said, all these views, as I said, it all affects to the physical tables, and it interacts with your SAP S4HANA applications, and finally it helps in your operational reporting, where you see all these reports in terms of the setup. So when you talk about the business suite, so business suite is basically my ECC system to my SAP S4HANA system. So you have a graphical user interface where you have your Fiori layer along with your graphical user interface, and your core components being it your SDMMPP, it's all your SAP S4HANA on-premise edition, where it works more on the logistics space. Plus, it could be an AnyDB or it could be an SAP HANA DB. Again, this is again completely on HANA, only on HANA. Because beyond 2025, SAP will not be supporting anything apart from your S4HANA. Because till 2025, they'll be supporting this particular setup. This is not supported beyond 2021. This is supported till 2025. And beyond 2025, only this particular system will be supported. That has been communicated to all the customers from SAP's end as well. Okay. As I told you, the three transition scenarios. One is basically, as I told you, new implementation. Then is your system conversion. The last one is my landscape transformation. What is my landscape transformation? Suppose I have easy systems from various landscape. So one is my North American region, one is my APAC region, then for me one is my Australian region, one is my Middle East region. So I will have multiple ECS systems. I want to use, some customers would say, now I'll be using all the system, but for reporting it has to go to HANA system. So that is called as a landscape transformation. I'll consolidate all these things, putting into one single system, and I'll be using for my reporting. And there will be a lot of harmonization techniques that needs to be done. It's comparatively complex, right? Because your master data management changes would happen. MDM master data would actually get changed, right? Because you'll be using one master data here, one set of master data here, one set of master data here. When I want to bring it to one thing, again, there has to be instant base. Within a HANA instance, I'll be putting it as structures, right? You have how the table structures have to be redefined, how the table structures have to be redefined and tested. This is how it is. So we have multiple systems, system consolidation, a lot of harmonization that has to be done. Finally, you'll be bringing into HANA, which will be working on which your SAP S4HANA will be mounted. S4HANA, which will be enabled by HANA Simple. This is where these are the three transition scenarios that we'll be discussing. And we'll be discussing what are the prerequisites that is there predominantly for all these scenarios as such. Okay. What is the new implementation to system conversion to landscape transformation? I'll just continue for another 5 more minutes. I think it's almost past 8. Another 5 minutes. By 8 and I'll try to close it. Yeah. So we have new implementations. You have, when you talk about a new implementation, it could be an existing ERP or it could be a non-SAP. And they have an option of moving on to the on-premise to the cloud. So when I talk about a system conversion, on contrary, because it is an on-premise to on-premise, this is basically, it's an on-premise, this is a cloud. So when you talk about this, gives you an option of only moving your existing ECC system to my on-premise system. Then you have a landscape transformation. Basically, you can move any region wise, because I have a different regions which can be moved on to the on-premise outcome, because this involves a lot of consolidation that is happening again against your current regional SAP Business Suite landscape into one global SAP S4HANA system to selectively do the data migrations as such. Okay, the next is basically my activate methodology. What is my activate methodology? So we had seen about my SAP methodology, right? As part of the SAP methodology, in my EC side, all this implementations are happening on the SAP. This is basically a waterfall model where you have a requirements gathering, you have a blueprinting stage, where you have a realization phase, where you have a go live and support, right? These are the 3 different phases as part of your SAP. Now with this SAP S4 activate methodology, they come out with these 3 concepts called as best practices, because they have designed a model company. Based on the model company, your entire best practice have been concentrated on. For example, they have a US model company, they have a UK model company, they have a Germany model company, based on which SAP has set their own best practices. So this, when you go for a best practice implementation, all this ready configurations, right? Previously, if you want to refer to any existing system, you used to go to the 000 systems, right? Normally, when you want to see the best practice thing, you'll go to the 000 systems. From where you'll be migrating the configuration. But now, best practice systems have all been laid, and SAP says, okay, this best practice have been time and tested and approved by SAP. So directly, you can go for a best practice. If they want to do any customization, they can copy from the best practice setup and they can do the customization. It makes everyone's life easier, because SAP has set up best practices which was not there till date. And we have a guided configuration, because they have given a set of configuration steps, configuration documents, which comes in as part of your SAP S4HANA package. All the guided configuration would be work. Then you have your methodology. What are the different business processes that this entire methodology, the standard set of business processes that have been defined for every particular business process. That's where these 3 components falls in for your activate methodology that works on all this, both your new implementation, system conversion, and a landscape transformation. For all this transition process, it is all worked on your SAP Activate, because it is an agile way of methodology. Because every company is going agile, every project is going agile, SAP cannot continue with a waterfall mode of approach. That's why they're going for this activate mode of approach, which is on the agile methodology of implementation. Okay. So I think I'll close at this today. So we'll discuss tomorrow. I have some more thing to complete as part of this introduction course. So we'll be completing that. Then we'll taking on system the SAP transition scenarios in detail, about what are the different transition scenarios, what are the prerequisites. Because when you talk about the transition, again, a lot of technical thing people will be involved in that. So, but we'll have to have an information as to what are the prerequisites that needs to be done. What is the scope of functional consultant there? So what are the things that a technical consultant would actually see? But that's why we'll have to be having an overview of all this system, so that it'll help whenever you get into any implementation project, or it could be system conversion. Why I'm talking about system conversion is predominantly because many customers who are already there, because almost 95% of the customers are already on ECC, are already on SAP. But how much of them are having a 6.0? Almost, if you see, almost 80% of them, 80 to 90% of them would be having a 6.0. But predominant, and how much of people who are having ECC, how many of them would be going to SAP S4HANA as part of your system conversion. But predominantly, most of the projects, if you see going forward, will be on system conversion projects. New implementation, yes, new opportunities where SAP spots out wherever they have they were able to convince any customer, whoever is on other platform or another ERP, if they want to migrate in S4HANA, this is the right time where they can revamp the entire business process and migrate it to SAP S4HANA. And there are options now on the on-premise and cloud, because they can try it out on the cloud for some time, and then once they are convinced the way they see the business process being used, so they later go for an on-premise implementations as well. So this is how the entire Activate methodology is working towards the setup. So I'll close at this today. So we'll meet tomorrow, or tomorrow we'll be meeting and we'll be discussing on other few set of topics which I need to discuss. Then we'll be taking individually topics and we'll start discussion. Yeah, I'm done for today. Any questions or anything? I'm open for questions now. Yeah. Yeah, Bharat, anyone? Yeah. Is there anything that
Thanks, guys.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.